that way more.
Tim Dillon, dude. I remember meeting Tim Dillon with Bobby Kelly. And we went to a bar to have a cigar. And I remember Tim told me he doesn't drink and he's gay. And I thought, we have nothing in common. I'll never talk to this guy again. And then halfway through my cigar, I'm crying, laughing, going, who the fuck is this guy?
No, Timmy is one of those guys, obviously, completely sober, he can hang with you he'll hang out with you till 7 a.m.
Yeah.
No problem at all.
You guys all have such a great, it's like you guys, your generation missed our, like, for whatever reason, you guys just have, you guys are almost like more fearless. Does that make sense?
Well, I think because learning from you guys and watching like what you can have. If
No. Here's what it is. You ready? Yeah. I don't mean to interrupt you, but it is hilarious. You guys watched. Here's my theory. You guys watched us go on Rogan and talk absolutely reckless.
Yes.
And you were like,
yeah, I'm gonna do that too.
You're like, did he just say he sexually assaulted somebody? Like, what the fuck?
Yeah. Well, then the thing is too, because when you guys started coming up and blowing up all that stuff, that cancel culture stuff hadn't happened yet. So we were like, I was like, I'm just gonna do what they're doing, and then I do it, and then it's like, no, you'll get arrested for that shit in 2022.
Yeah, it was the fucking.
But you know what it is? I think even with my special, even with the special Weshi, when I did it, I was like, a lot of times comedians do special. They'll have a free audience. Just come and I want it to look filled. I was like, no, I'm going to sell tickets. I'm going to do this as a regular show. I don't care. I said, if there's 18 people in the crowd, I'll do the special and put that out. I'm going to be real with everything real. And so that's why when I said in the beginning of the special, that was true. They had some venue issues, so I was just there. I was getting very nervous. I'll be honest. I just started crushing martinis.
Wait, have you stopped drinking for a sec?
I did stop drinking. For a while, and then I started drinking a lot, and then I had to stop again. So now I've slowed it down. I'm trying to do a thing where I only have a drink once every 21 days. I'm trying, and
you're gonna have a drink tonight.
I'll have a drink tonight. Yeah. I'll just immediately abandon it. I'll abandon it. Literally, that's all it takes. I'm gonna do once every 21 days. But then if you were just like, but you want to have one drink, I'll say absolutely.
You want to have a drink?
If I had a drink yesterday. Yeah, I'll have a drink.
Let's have a drink. Hey, listen, I sold out the Greek last night.
Hell yeah, dude.
Dude, let me tell you something.
You got a good scotch or something? What do you want to drink?
Can I introduce you?
Yes.
This is Winston Churchill. The great favorite. This is what he wake up to. This is whiskey he wake up to. It was given to me by the guy who does the Prideful Goat. I should. He gave me this too. This was distilled on mine. First,
yes. Dude, anyone that can beat back the Nazis,
a little spice.
My name's James from Mountain Rug Cleaning, and today I'm going to be cleaning a rug infested with earthworms.
Winston Churchill. Well,
we can have a cigar too.
The rug was just completely saturated in mud, soaking wet. And then on further inspection, I could see what looked to be little maggots inside the rug. Turns out it was probably earthworm larvae. It was a rug that somebody didn't want anymore, so it was just discarded in their garden. Basically, I just wanted to see if I could clean it, test my skills, essentially, and see, what I could do with it. Essentially, I'm just rinsing the rug with water, so it's just a high-powered hose, and it's just pushing water out onto the rug to just rinse out as much of the mud as possible. It's not a pressure washer. Pressure washer has a lot of power, but it doesn't necessarily shoot out a high volume of water onto the rug. And essentially what you want to do in the beginning is just get the water on there as quick as possible. I have a pump attached to the hose just so it gives enough pressure and power, but it's not like trickling out really slowly. It's powerful enough that you can sort of blast the top of the rug and it will just sort of wash away any sort of surface soils from the top of the rug. You're going to be using brushes on the rug, and the water alongside with the shampoo lubricates the rug to prevent any kind of damage from the machines that you're going to be using on it. All sorts of leaves and twigs and soil and things are just blasting up the top of the rug, as well as the earthworms that were in there. I wanted to make sure that I got those washed off the top of the rug because I didn't want to churn them all up into the rugs. I wanted to make sure that I got those all off first before I took any more steps. I'm using just a watering can with a mixture of shampoo and oxygen booster in it, and then I'm just using that to just get the shampoo distributed over the top of the rug. So that's the rotary machine. It has a rotating brush on the bottom of it, and that is used to essentially get the shampoo mixed into the rug so it's easier to then wash out. I'm using a special fibre shampoo. It's quite a mild detergent, pet safe, wall safe. It's not very strong. It's just enough to break down the soils in the rug and make it easier for you to sort of wash it all out. The oxygen booster just helps break down the soils a lot quicker. It can make things whiter. It can bring the colours out, reduce odour, and yeah, just essentially make it easier for you to remove the stains. I wouldn't use bleach at all. Bleach in general damages the fibres, especially because this was a wool rug. It can damage the colours in the rug, so it's better to just avoid using the bleach. It's cold water. You don't want to use hot water on rugs because they tend to have a problem with shrinking. So you just use cold water, and that just eliminates any kind of potential problems that you might have with cleaning them. You then use what's called a squeegee, essentially like what you use to clean your windows, and you scrape off all the dirt and foam from the top of the rug. The next step is flipping the rug over and then cleaning the wash floor underneath, because a lot of the dirt and stuff is still underneath the rug, so I think it's a good idea to just wash all that away before you then put the rug back on top that you've just cleaned. And then again, it's pretty much exactly the same process as doing the front. Just start off with getting the rug saturated with water, adding the shampoo and an oxygen booster again, and then just cleaning the back of it with the rotary to get as many of the stains out as you possibly can. Always clean the back and the front, because when you clean the front, it pushes a lot of the dirt through into the back. And then also, on the flip side, when you clean the back, it then forces a lot of the dirt and stuff, which is deep in the rug, out from the opposite side, if you see what I mean. I usually then use a CRB machine on the top of the rug. It looks a bit like a vacuum. It's like a grey box. It stands for contra-rotating brush head. Inside, it's got two brushes that revolve in opposite directions, and then as they roll up, they sort of pull the fibres of the rug up into the machine. So it kind of gives you a much deeper clean, but it also lifts the pile of the rug, making it a bit more fluffy. Adding more products to the rug to sort of break down more soils that are still left inside. You do it until the water comes out as clear as possible. You'll never get a rug 100% clean. There will always be some dirt inside a rug. You could be using thousands and thousands of litres of water unnecessarily for very, very little gain. So there's a point at which it's still getting little bits out, but it's just not worth wasting so much water in order to get it out. At that point, I'm adding acidic rinse to the rug. It neutralises all the chemicals that you've previously used, and it helps to wash them all out. It also helps prevent cellulosic browning, which is a process at which the natural fibres in the rug can turn brown. That is called a Gandhi groom. It's used to remove the pattern left in the rug, but it's also to set the fibres to help it dry quicker. I'm vacuuming out as much moisture as I possibly can. So that's basically a wet vac, and it's sucking out the moisture and then it's going into a tank. It's quite an important process because it is obviously removing a lot of the moisture from the rug. Then I put it in a centrifuge, which gets about 95% of the water out of the rug. You hang the rug in a warm room with fans and a dehumidifier, and then that just gets the last remaining bits of the moisture out. I mean, don't leave your rug in the garden for a start. But yeah, biggest tip I've got for
So this is the Canon R5C, and from the day it was announced, I had a feeling it was going to be a very important camera. So I pretty much ordered it immediately to hopefully get ahead of the long wait times, and in just a few months, it arrived fresh on my doorstep. Now, it has been a little bit over a month since I received it, and man, do I have a lot to say about this camera. Now, by the time I get this review out, I most definitely won't be the first video out talking about it by far, but hopefully I can paint a clear picture on how I have used it and all the good and bad that I have run into over the months of running this camera through pretty much every test I possibly can. So with a camera this feature packed, it's a bit hard to know really where to start. So let's jump in at the element that warrants that C branding, the video features. I personally think that if you have done any research at all about this camera, then you probably are well aware of the video specs that this camera has. 8K video at up to 60 frames per second, C-Log 3, 12-bit internal RAW video capturing, and so much more. From just a technical perspective, the specs alone make this camera stand in a league of its own. However, as we all know, features are just a part of the equation. The other part is how do these specs translate into real-world use cases. As a filmmaker myself, I found that I honestly never use the 8K that often. I personally think it is still fairly overkill for many projects. However, if you were in the need to do some reframing in post, I can see how this feature could really come in handy. Now, the one area I did find that the 8K sensor came in handy a lot in was actually shooting in 4K. When shooting in 4K, this camera oversamples from the 8K sensor, producing a significantly sharper image, but it also reduces the noise. For the majority of my time using this camera, I found myself in the 10-bit XAVC Cinema 4K mode, filming in C-Log 3 with the C-Gambit color space. From time to time, I did test out other modes, but this is really what I just kept finding myself gravitating back to. Now, we can't talk about the video features of this camera without touching on the one major highlight that this camera offers, which is RAW. video recording. The RAW codec that comes out of this camera is Canon's Cinema Raw Lite. As I mentioned, I don't see myself using this camera to do a lot of 8K work. As for that kind of stuff, I'll probably lean towards my Red V Raptor. However, I did do a quick dynamic range test to see what the RAW codec was capable of. Now, full transparency, I was not only testing this camera, I was testing it up against the Canon C70, which that video will be coming out very soon, so be sure to subscribe because you're not going to want to miss that one. My quick observation was that the R5C definitely benefits from the extra bump from the RAW. That being said, working with Canon RAW Lite clips were not the easiest. I don't want to completely talk trash about the workflow just yet because I'm sure there was some user error involved. However, I will say it was not nearly as simple as working with the Red RAW files. I guess since we're kind of speaking on negatives anyway, I guess it's just time to let's just rip the band-aid off and tackle the elephant in the room. When you start dabbling in the 8K settings, you will find that this camera has the ability to shoot 8K at up to 60 frames per second, which on paper is amazing. However, this comes with a huge asterisk, and that is the fact that you will need additional power in order to pull this off if you want to use Canon RF lenses. Now, in my honest opinion, this is not a big deal, and as I said, 8K on this camera for me is really more of a luxury. Also, just as an additional note, even if you're thinking to yourself that you will use manual focus, that still won't work with the lenses that focus by wire. You have to completely use manual lenses, like cinema lenses. This is a 100% power draw issue, which naturally leads to the issue that I've personally been battling with since I picked up this camera, and that has been the battery life. This is actually the reason why it has taken me so long to get this video out. From the first time I took this camera out to film with it, I quickly realized how important finding a power solution for this camera would be. It's almost Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera bad, and I've had to do almost 3 videos trying to solve that camera's issues. Now, the camera is designed to run off of the Canon LPE6N8 batteries, which is Canon's V2 of these batteries design. However, when it comes to the cinema side of this camera, it's still just not enough. Last week I was in Las Vegas and I brought the R5C with me to NAB, and I got to sit down with some guys from Canon and ask them questions about the camera to get down to the bottom of the power issue. They pretty much just let me know that when it comes to the cinema side of this camera, it was just not designed to be powered for long periods of time with this battery. The main reason has to do with the power draw of the camera in video mode. They also let me know that yes, the camera is going to be very conservative when it comes to the power modes because of this. This is the reason why, in my own personal experience, when I'm actually using the camera in video mode, it can power off due to a dead battery, but if you switch it into photo mode, you'll notice that you still have 2 notches left on the battery. So if we know we have a problem, then what is our solution? Well, for starters, Canon does make a battery grip that was designed for the R5, but it does work for this camera. This doubles the battery life, which makes sense because it's literally using 2 batteries. My personal favorite solution, however, is using the Condor Blue LPE6 dummy battery and running that directly into my Anton Bauer base battery. This setup can run the camera for hours. The best part is that you can still balance this on a gimbal, slide it on a tripod, or you can just handhold it. It may not be the most ergonomically appealing setup, but it is a very practical one, and you won't have to walk around with 10 LP batteries in your pocket to get through a 5-hour shoot. The only still downside is you're still not going to be able to have 8K 60 frames per second raw recording and have lens support even with this system because the dummy battery still doesn't supply enough power to the camera. Now I get it, this camera isn't cheap, so let me help you make some extra money on the side to help pay for this thing. I'm sure if you've been shooting video for over a day, you probably have some extra footage just sitting around on a hard drive or on a memory card somewhere. And the crazy thing is this footage you have just sitting there could be making you money, and I don't care what it is. Video of a leaf? Money. Video of an empty park swing? money. Literally video of a dog pooping at golden hour. I kid you not, money. I'm sure you have better footage than that though. So let's make this simple. Grab all of that footage you have and head over to wirestock.com and create an account. Upload all this footage and sit back and let Wirestock do all the heavy lifting. With Wirestock, they take the time to upload your videos and photos to all the major stock websites. I'm talking Adobe, Shutterstock, Pond5, and many others, to get you the most exposure and possible sales. And the best part is all of this is free. Wirestock works on a percentage of sales basis, which means they get a percentage of the sales of your stock content, which means they only get paid if you get paid. It's absolutely free and easy to sign up. Check out my link in the description and start making some money ASAP. So in the month that I've had this camera, I have put it through a lot of different unique situations, but probably the most well-suited was last weekend when I used it to capture a CrossFit competition. Now, I've worked with this client for many years, and the job is fairly simple. Show up with a small team, capture enough video to create a short recap video, and take photos of the athletes. That's right, photos and video at the same event. This camera was perfectly made for this. So at this event, I decided to bring out this hot off the press camera and put it through its paces. When it came to the photography, this camera did not disappoint, but coming from the R5 infrastructure, I'm honestly not that surprised. The 45 megapixel stills are stunning, but they are massive. The first day that I got this camera, I actually took it in my backyard to test it with my new puppy. As far as the autofocus goes in the photo mode, it is really responsive and almost never misses. I have found myself bringing this camera out on set with me more to do some more BTS stuff, and the photos are absolutely amazing there too. I've been grabbing way more BTS photos, and I've actually been inspired to get out and take photos again. These are actually a few photos from another video that I'm working on for here on the channel, the Redvi Raptor versus the Alexa Mini LF. Be sure to hit that notification bell so you don't miss that one. You know, over the past month, I really have tried to put this camera through as many tests and shooting situations as I can. I traveled with it to Vegas and hung this camera out of a helicopter chasing a truck through the desert, where this thing got crazy dusty, but it never skipped a beat, and I got the shot. I also mounted it on an L bracket in order to mount it on its side to shoot Instagram Reels for one of my clients, which I must say, as a social media camera, this thing rocks. Although I would have loved to see a thread on the side of this thing, Condor Blue does have a case that technically works for the R5C that was originally designed for the R5, but they have assured me that a case specifically for the R5C will be coming soon. So I'll update you guys on that in the future. Speaking of camera bodies, the button layout on this camera is very well laid out. I haven't really changed the photo ones, but the video side, I've really dived in and started customizing my shooting layout. And it's kind of just nice that I can do that. If you are interested in my video settings or my custom layouts, I can definitely make a follow-up video breaking all of that down. Just leave your questions in the comment section. But we have talked a lot about the pros. Let's break down a few of the cons or the issues that I ran into with this camera. Now, just in case you use chapter markers to skip to this section, you can't talk about the cons without bringing up the battery. As I mentioned with the base battery, I pretty much solved my issue, but the main con comes with the battery grip. When I spoke with Canon to see if they might come out with a different grip that could possibly take a different battery, like the bigger battery in the C70, they pretty much were clear that this was not on the horizon. Another major con is the boot time between switching from photo to video. It takes about 8 seconds or so, but honestly it feels like 20 to 30 seconds when you're trying to get a quick shot. These cons are honestly very minor when it comes to all the great things that this camera will offer you for the right shooter, which begs the question, who is the right shooter? If Canon can keep this camera in stock, which is a big if, I personally believe that it will become the new go-to camera for content creators, wedding filmmakers, and freelance video shooters all over if they haven't already jumped ship over to Team Sony. The thing I like most about this camera is it really does feel like, for the first time, Canon said, what all can we throw at this camera? They didn't hold anything back. They even went so far as to say, we could cut this feature, but whatever. Let's leave it in there and let them figure it out, which personally I appreciate. As I stated at the beginning of this video, this camera is going to be extremely important in our field, and after only a month of ownership, I'm stoked about what this camera will mean for my own personal creative future. Now, before you click off this video, I just want to say thank you for watching it all the way to the end. If you are a fan of this channel and you enjoy the content and you're looking to learn more about the filmmaking process, please let me know what type of content you'd like to see me create more in the future. The comment section is exactly where I go to get inspiration for future videos. But thank you guys so much for watching this one, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.
This is a $2,000 camera. This is a $500,000 camera. And this is Chris. I'm Chris, and I make unnecessary camera comparison videos. Why? Because they get views, baby. In this video, we're going to take this camera right here and kit it out with hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of Hollywood cinema gear, and then compare the footage against a kit lens in an ultimate B-roll battle. Hey, Peter McKinnon, are B-roll battles still relevant? No? Let's do it. Because I don't want the heat of the entire comment section on the backs of my shoulders, I've brought a friend. This is Patrick Tommaso. He's a really, really great DP. He's also an amazing YouTuber, and he knows more about the Lumix S5 than I do, at least for now. Okay, so let's slow down the pace of this video, and let's jump into lenses. All right, so let's talk about lenses here, Patrick. We have a lot of different things that we can play with. We have the Hawk Anamorphics here. What do we have over here?
These are the Leica Summilux, so this is kind of like going a little bit more vintage anamorphic style look. If you've ever seen the movie Moonlight, absolutely gorgeous film. That was shot on Hawk Anamorphic, sorry. And then if you want to go over to a more clean spherical lens, which is probably a little bit more similar to what we want to play with later on a non-kitted version of the S5, because Leica actually makes a lot of the glass for Lumix as well. These are the Leica Summilux. So if you've ever seen David Fincher's Mank or Mindhunter, that was shot on these beautiful bad boys.
I want to play with these so badly, but we're not going to do that. We're actually going to use these lenses right here because they're $50,000 a lens, and that sounds more impressive.
Okay, so the first thing we need to do is we need to get this little guy into a nice cage, which will let us put all of our bells and whistles on this camera. So what cage are we using today?
This is the small rig cage. This is like $150. So let's throw this S5 right in there. Look at me go. Supposed to be a professional.
While you do that, one of the interesting things we have to do here, now it could be confusing because Leica makes a lot of Lumix lenses, and L-mount is actually part of an alliance with Sigma and Leica, but these lenses are actually PL mount, which stands for positive lock. So this is basically an industry standard for cinema lenses because they literally lock onto the camera you're using. So we have to use this little adapter that's going to go from L-mount to PL. It sort of defeats the purpose of positive lock because at that point we're kind of using a regular lock with a lock, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But it is necessary to use lenses like this, so it will work even though it's not the most fancy solution. But now we're going to lock it. The focus feel on these cinema lenses, like I wish I could just describe it to you. It's like fetid. You can literally just gently put your finger on it and get the focus out of it, which is, I mean, all of these are focused by wire, which means it's electronics that are dealing with that for you. But this is like tactile feel. You know where you're in focus, and obviously all the markings that we put upside down because this mount has been a bit silly, so I'm going to fix that real quick. Now we are right side up. The adapter is working. It is now time to go back on the camera. Not the best solution because this adapter is still a little bit wobbly, but it'll work for us.
Professionals.
Boom.
Okay, so we've collected pretty much every single piece that we need to build our camera kit before we're actually going to throw it on the Ronin 2 later so we can get some stabilized shots. What do we have here?
The first thing we need to do is, now that we have it in the cage with the lens, we got to throw this on some rails. And so rails are going to allow us to add things like this RE Hi5 follow focus. How much does this thing go for?
That kit, which includes this piece over here, with everything, is like $25,000. Well, it's the best of the best. There's obviously like more affordable like follow focus, but this is like if you're working in cinema, this is the one that you want to use.
This is a Teradek Bolt 3000. So this is going to let us do wireless monitoring. So when we're pulling focus, the AC or the focus puller can sit there and actually see what we're shooting completely wirelessly. And what's interesting is like a lot of this stuff does, like you said, has alternatives that are a lot cheaper. But we're going for best of the best here just to see what this thing is actually capable of. And the juxtaposition also of how this is literally a quarter of the price, if not less, like 1% of the price of some of this stuff, 2%. So it's just fun to put really expensive gear on a really cheap mirrorless camera.
This is the matte box from Polar Pro. The reason why we go with this one is just like super light, and then you can throw DNGs into it, you can throw polarizers, and it allows you to get rid of sun flares on the front.
What's great about this system is most of us will be typically used to filter thread mounts, but when this thing's all rigged up, you just want something really quick that can just sort of slide out. So when you got to switch to a polarizer or a different strength of ND or a different exposure stop, it's just boop. Okay, let's build this. Okay, so we have our final camera build out. We got to throw this on this, which is well above our pay grade for sure. So I brought in a tech. Mitch, can you come and throw this on the Ronin 2, please, for us? Because I also don't want to damage this kit absolutely at all. So I'm jumping in here to speak to one other item that we're adding on top of this kit, and that is the small HD 703 Bright. This monitor right here is like roughly $3,200, and this will allow the operator to be able to like frame their shots. And then we're going to take another monitor where we're sending the signal with the Teradek to a director's monitor and an AC monitor so they can pull focus there. All right, so we have our final setup. So this camera right here is around like $2,200 with the lens that you have right here. And for this setup over here, we're $100,000 plus on this. We'll put its final number like right here. This is a beast, and I thought we would have a little showdown of B-roll. My friend George brought some motorcycles nearby, and we're gonna go and shoot some B-roll of some bikes. So let's do it. Taking a break. I'm cool. Okay, so for the purpose of this test, we literally have a Ronin against the Ibis of the S5. Straight up, just Ibis. I'm using a kit lens, like literally a kit lens versus a Leica Summilux 18mm, like $50,000 lens. It's like a $200 lens compared to that thing. We're also shooting everything in 60 FPS just to maybe level the playing field a little bit because they have the whole Ronin M, so it's going to keep things a little more steady for me along with the Ibis. So it should feel pretty gimbal-like with 60 frames per second.
So I'm thinking for the first shot, what we're going to do is just follow Mitch walking up to this custom motorcycle, getting on, and that's just like a one and done follow shot. Let's try it. Alright, so this is a two-man operation. I will be operating the gimbal and the camera, and I'll be just focusing on just the frame. Brandon will be my AC, and he'll be pulling focus the external monitor here. Yeah, it's rolling, camera's rolling, and action.
And then I think a second shot would be like putting the helmet on close up. Hand on the handlebar. Okay, hands off the bars. And hands on the bars.
Still recording?
So when I yell action, you're gonna pull it up, hit the kickstart, and like turn the light on if we can. And action.
And recording. And whenever you're ready, next time. A workout and a half.
I already know mine looks better, but it's fine.
Savage! Savage!
One thing that's interesting is because that's an 18mm lens and this is 20, you're gonna see that his shots look a lot wider. It's wild how much the 2mm actually makes quite a bit of difference.
I want to put this down. Stop talking. Alright, let's head inside. Okay, be honest with me. Could you tell the difference between the $200 lens and the $50,000 lens? I'll give you a second to think about your answer. Yes, in my personal opinion, you could definitely see the difference. Like the $50,000 lens looks really, really good. But there was one shot in particular where I actually thought the kit lens looked better. Kit lens, well done. But I think it's fair to assume that when you're kitting a camera out with hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, that you're going to see an optical difference in the image. But I genuinely think both held up really, really well in both circumstances, and we're only seeing the differences because we're putting the images side by side. If you had saw that kit lens shot, you'd be like, that's great footage of a motorcycle. Great job, Patrick. Bravo. And if you saw the image shot with the higher cinema gear, you'd be like, that looks really amazing too. What I think is so interesting about mirrorless cameras in 2022, and specifically the Lumix S5, is that you get such great value for your money. Even with a kit lens, that footage looks so great. You can go and shoot a travel vlog or capture family memories, and then you can start kitting it out to be able to shoot commercials and be able to shoot client work and anything else that you want. And it's the exact same camera body, and you only pay, maybe when it's on sale, $1,500, but generally that's a $2,000 camera body with a $200 lens. Very, very impressive stuff. If you guys like this video, please press like. It actually makes a difference. Subscribe and hit the bell to be notified for future videos, and we will most definitely catch you guys in the next one. A big shout out to Patrick Tommaso for being a part of this video. Please go show him some love with a subscription, and also shout out to Ontario Camera for letting us play with all your expensive gear. That stuff beats the world. So if you guys have any rental needs and you're in Toronto, you want to shoot a short film or a weird camera comparison video, they're your rental house. And then you can hit up Patrick and he'll give you great suggestions on pizza and tell you amazing things about cinema. I love you guys. Thanks for being here. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.
What's going on, people of the internet? Welcome back to another episode of the Waveform Podcast. We're your hosts. I'm Marquez.
And I'm Andrew.
And I'm fresh back from the Met Gala.
Yeah.
All 3 hours of sleep I got were great. And today's episode, we got a whole bunch of stuff. We're going to talk about the full specs of the Subaru Solterra, just because they're conversation worthy, I think.
Yeah, that's a nice way of putting it.
Yeah. But there's also some Twitch rumors floating around that might be very consequential to Twitch partners. And also, we have some updates on the F-150 Lightning, and I also have some future stuff we want to talk about. But then we'll always wrap up with some trivia, like we've always, not always done, but like we've started doing, and I think it's super fun.
But I also think, like, you can't just throw the Met Gala out there and not, like, elaborate a little bit. That's a flex.
You know what? Sure, let's just go. Yeah. That'll be my story time for this episode. We've done so much tech stuff, but yeah, I was at the Met Gala on May 2nd, which was
no big deal.
You know, pretty fish out of water, as I would describe it. So the way it was sort of broken down is the Met Gala, for those who are unfamiliar, is a sort of fashion event fundraiser in New York City.
Yeah.
But it's become like the Super Bowl of fashion events, basically.
Sure.
So anytime you see it happen, basically I don't really follow the fashion world that much, and then once in a while on Twitter I see everyone's craziest outfits, and I'm like, oh, the Met Gala happened. And that's like once per year. It took a year off after the pandemic. Then there was a couple months ago they did a pre-Met Gala or something like that. But then we're back in 2022. And like 2 weeks before, I got an email from Derek Glassberg, who's the head of fashion at Google on YouTube, and it's like,
I don't think the other tires that I bought did either.
Well, it might just be like a more winter-focused all season.
I guess what I probably should have done, and it's because I didn't want to buy 4 tires even, because I only bought 2. So I should be buying summers, which is probably what I'll do from here on out. Because I'm like swapping out my all seasons for the winters.
Yeah.
I may as well just be swapping out summers for winters.
Alright. Sorry, I'm testing the iPhone hotspot for live streaming.
Oh shit, just in case?
I might have one tomorrow.
Oh yeah?
Yeah. Matt from Made Right was like, yo, a friend has a funeral tomorrow. And it's like, there are people in Kenya that want to see it. So it's like he's like, I know it's late notice, and like, here's the schedule. So it's like I have to like go to like the service. I would have to go to the service and then go to the burial as well, which is close by, but like
go to the service.
Yeah, like the funeral service and then go to the burial. His actual like coffin situation.
Dead bodies falling out of shit, wouldn't it?
Yeah, buddy. We should have a video with cameras. So he's like, yeah, well, how much are you free? I'm like, I got somewhere to be at 6:30. So I got penny commission or whatever. And he's like, oh. Okay. I'm like, I always start at 6:30. He's like, it ends at 5:30, so you can probably take off a little bit early. And I was like, as long as I have a hard out at 5:30, it should be fine. I'm not gonna do like the fucking full like multi-cam setup at the second spot because I only have like an hour to set up.
Yeah, I was gonna say like you're doing 2 different live streams basically.
Yeah. So the schedule is viewing is at 10:30, ceremony service is at 11:30, mass service is at 12:30, reception from 1:30 to 2:30, and then Grand Park Cemetery to lay her rest from 2:30 to I think 5:30. It's a full day.
I was gonna say that's a lot.
Yeah, and like it's all in one room besides the fucking burial, obviously. So I was leaving during like the reception and we go set up immediately down there. And he's like, I think you need a hotspot in both locations.
Oh,
so he's
God.
like, all right. I mean, like it's like I haven't tested my hotspot, so let me do that. But like I have the time. And he's like, cool. What would be your rates? And I know it's like a dual setup and like whatever. So like, I don't know, fucking $1,500. He's like, all right, cool, sounds fair.
Damn, nice.
Because I'll let him know, let you know what's up. And I was like, cool. So, my first question, he's like, how much would we rate you? I'm like, how good is the friend? This was my first question. I'm like, this is like one of your best friends or whatever, like best friends like uncle or something like that. Poke him up a little bit, but like, nah, it's just like someone you kind of know. I'll do full rate. So yeah, I was suggesting it. And I've gone 45 minutes without a drop frame yet. So, seems good so far. Really, it has to last at max 3 hours. So I can kind of reset. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, no? I was thinking too, I was like, wonder if there's a way I have to like try and like battery power the fucking HM. So like while I like leave and like set up all this like oh like we'll be right back, you know? Situation. So like for like the 2 hours that like I'm like setting up whatever back at the booth site, that's like running on battery in my car or some shit.
Man, that's what you need the toaster for.
Right? I think I could do it. If I switched to a different scene on OBS and just kept it going. And just like drove over. Because I have enough battery power. Well, maybe. Ooh. Got a full charge and now I'm down to 19%, 23%. That's rough. Oh, you know what I got? My dad left a fucking battery backup here. Like a giant fucking jump starter.
Oh, yeah?
I might grab that. You see it in that power for a few days? Did I tell you that? After the storm? Yeah, after the storm. So the 2 houses down, the power line got fucking knocked the fuck over. So we didn't have power for like 2 days after that big storm. So on Thursday, it was Friday. It's one of the days he came over. He was like, hey man, he was like, hey, can I come charge stuff at your house real quick? And I was like, yeah, of course. Do you still have power? He's like, nah. And I'm like, whoa. So he hung out for a little bit while he charged his phone and plugged in the battery backup thing. Oh, hell yeah. A little stand.
Is yours not?
It has a non-adjustable stand. It's just a fucking giant triangle.
I usually have it like this. Yeah, there we go.
That's nice.
That should do it. I'm assuming I need to get some good Stream Deck software on this thing.
Yep.
Oh my god. Alright. Yeah, what's up? Yeah, what's up? I literally just opened up the computer. Is there like a specific way that you want to include the videos, or should we just do whatever I would probably want to do and then just tell you this is what we're doing? Yeah, you're cutting out really hard. I don't know yet. I have to poke through and see what I want to do. That's probably. I mean, that might be what I would end up wanting to do.